As with any lifestyle change or physical exercise program, consult your physician before you begin your yoga practice. If you are pregnant, discuss your yoga practice with your yoga instructor. As your pregnancy progresses, you will need to modify or avoid certain poses. Move at your own pace and modify the poses as needed in order to maintain alignment and easy breathing in every pose. If you feel any discomfort, dizziness, or pain during your practice, either modify the pose so that you are comfortable or take a few moments to rest. It is very important that you listen to your body and practice yoga in the manner that is the safest and most comfortable for you. Namaste.
Hi there, my name is Kavita Maharaj. I'm the owner and operator of Red Door Yoga in Nanaimo, BC. If you've never meditated before, there are a few points to note. First of all, the length of time that you meditate is not so important. What's important is the consistency of your meditation practice. So instead of trying to meditate for an hour or more, for a few days and then taking a few weeks off, what you're really after is meditating even for 5-10 minutes at a time, but meditating on a daily basis. Simple is best. There are so many meditation techniques. Find one that works for you. When you start off, as I said, simple is always best. The less you need to remember, the more you can ease into your meditation practice. When you're practicing meditation, setting up a practice per se, try to be consistent also with the time of day that you meditate. So, for example, if morning times work for you, try to meditate around the same time every morning. If you happen to have a life where you work shift works or you run around on different times during different days, then meditate in the morning, meditate in the evening, whenever you need to, you can get it in, do so. But it always just makes it a little easier to turn a practice into a habit if you can maintain consistency in all areas of the practice. When you're meditating, try not to do so on a full stomach. If you're going to eat before practice, have a small meal, probably about half an hour or more before meditating. If you've had a main meal, wait at least 2 hours. If you don't wait at least 2 hours after a main meal, the blood will be in the digestive system. And what's going to happen is you'll get tired, sleepy. When you're practicing meditation, the point is to be very relaxed, but very conscious. And you're not going to be able to do that when you're drifting off to sleep. When you're sitting, it's important that the spine be erect, upright, but the body be comfortable. Now, most of the time, meditation practices are done on the floor. But if you have physical disabilities or extreme amounts of inflexibility in your hips and your lower back, you may be more comfortable sitting on a chair, and that's perfectly all right. But if you sit on a chair, try not to sit on one of those really big comfy chairs, the ones that call to you. The reason is your back will bow into it. You want to sit on a chair that is very erect, has a straight back, so that the spine remains upright. If you choose to sit on a floor, as most traditional meditations are done, again, your flexibility is going to come into play. You can sit directly on the floor, as I am right now, or you can choose to use yoga blocks or cushions or books, if that's all you've got around. So this is a foam yoga block. What you can do, and again, this depends on how you decide to sit, is if you decide to sit in hero's pose, the legs come behind you, to the side of the hip, and you sit on your sitting bones. Now, the sitting bones are the two bony points in your bum as you pull the fleshy part out. And no matter how much padding you've got 2 sitting bones. They're there. You'll find them. Okay? So those should be directly underneath you as you lengthen the spine. Now, if, however, I don't have a lot of flexibility in my thigh muscles, I'm going to find this uncomfortable. Or if I don't have an awful lot of flexibility on the front of the foot, I'm also going to find this uncomfortable. So what I'm going to do in that case is I'm going to grab a foam block, place that down, and sit on the block. That gives me a little bit more lift and a little bit of relief on my thigh muscles. If I need more, I keep bringing the blocks on. Okay? Now I don't have to have as much flexibility in here. And my feet, I can decide to curl my toes under so that I'm not stressing the front of my feet if that's tight. Again, there are different ways to sit. So I'm going to come down. By the way, you can also use a cushion or a zafu. And a zafu is a traditional meditation cushion. You can also choose to sit in a cross-legged position. Which cross-legged position will depend on your flexibility. The first position, you can bring one leg in front of the other. Ideally, if you drew a straight line, the line would go through the front of the foot, the heel, the front of the foot, the heel, and then hit the middle of the groin. If your hip flexors are a little bit tight, you may notice that your knees sit upwards. If you find this uncomfortable, you can place some foam blocks, cushions, whatever you would like, just to support the outside of the hips, the legs a little bit. If you have a little bit more flexibility, however, you can take the front foot and bring it up into the opposing hip joint. This is called a half lotus. With a little bit more flexibility, you can move into a full lotus. Simply bring the lower leg out from under the upper leg and relax the upper knee down. That requires a little bit more flexibility in your hip flexor. Then bring the bottom foot up into the opposing hip joint. This is a traditional meditation posture, and the reason it's a traditional posture is twofold. One is, in this position, in a full lotus, you can't help but be on your sitting bones, and as a result, you can't help but have the spine be erect, lengthened properly. The second reason is, yoga is based on an energy system. In this energy system, the spine is in the middle. There are two energy highways, as it were, two pathways. They're called the nadis. And they begin around here, and they move up the spine, interlacing, intersecting as they go, and eventually end where the nasal cavity is. Where they begin down here is exactly where the heels will then make contact. As a result, the full lotus essentially completes a circuit. The one thing left to think about are your hands. Just as the bottom part of the body completes a circuit, the top has to complete a circuit as well. What you can do is simply take your hands and place them on your knees. Circuit closed. If you'd like, you can place your hands, fingertips, against the thumb, and again, the circuits are closed. You can also choose, if you're in a full lotus position, to grip the toes, take a hold of the feet. In this case, now you've got two figure eights closing the circuit. What you also can choose to do is do more for Buddhist version. Just simply take the right hand, place it upon the left, and close the thumbs against each other, placing the hands against the abdomen. It's up to you. It's important to understand what you're really trying to do when you meditate. As I mentioned, there are a number of meditation techniques. But when it really comes down to it, they're all trying to do the same thing. The mind and the brain are two completely separate things. The brain is like the computer. It has the senses, sight, sound, touch, smell, taste. It uses the senses to take in information. The mind is the interpreter. It interprets the information, coming up with scenarios and reasons behind everything. It also comes up with thoughts and desires. The mind is a tool. The problem is that most of us, our minds are overactive. We don't actually know how to shut it off. And a tool that you can't turn on and off is not a tool that works for you. It is a tool that you work for. The purpose of meditation, as a result of all of this, is to quiet the mind and to actually begin to strengthen the brain. Because what happens with an overactive mind is that the brain becomes lazy. If the mind seems to be giving you all the information you need, why should the brain actually do the work? It becomes shut down. Your sense of sight, smell, sound, your ability to really observe the world in which you live begins to decrease quite a bit. So meditation, as I mentioned, tries to quiet the mind down. As it quiets the mind down, it then asks the brain, the senses, to begin to wake up again, to become stronger. It asks you to begin to see what is really happening around you, within you, and without you. When you're meditating, the purpose isn't to quiet the mind and have no thoughts for long periods of time. The mind will wander. It's completely natural and inevitable. Do not become self-aggressive. Don't become angry with yourself or irritated. There are days when my meditation is so wonderful, my mind is able to really sit and do what I'm trying to do while I'm meditating. But then there are days where my mind will not settle down for more than 2 seconds. Your reaction to your meditation should be the same on both days. The gift is in the practice itself.